Tom and I'm the founder of Club Ciné. We're a film club for the industry, but you can also find us on Substack and Instagram. A few years ago, I had one of those wouldn't it be fun if ideas if I assembled a few mates into a small cinema in central London to watch a movie, 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, went to the bar after, spoke about it. We had so much fun, we did it again. Fast forward a few years, it's evolved into a sexy beast, and we've nurtured a really beautiful community of filmmakers, directors, actors, artists, editors. We all get together and we celebrate auteur-driven independent cinema. This is all about the shared experience, about how films make us feel and the conversations they spark. We also do Q&As with filmmakers. So recently we've had Michael Cera, Benicio del Toro, Adrian Brody, Brady Corbet, Ty West, Mia Threppleton, Kevin MacDonald. This evening, we're going to watch Edgar Wright's The Running Man, exclusive first look screening. Edgar's going to join us for a Q&A afterwards. I won't say anything more except it's brilliant and I cannot wait to see it again.
Hello.
So Edgar, congratulations on the film. I was thinking back to why we do Club Ciné, and besides the shared experience, we like to watch films that make us feel. And that film sort of makes us feel everything. I feel like I need to take a beta blocker. But I want to start at the beginning, and can you take us back and talk us through the first time that you read the book? Where were you? How old were you?
I was probably 14. I think I started reading Stephen King books when I was maybe too young, like when I was 12. And I had actually read the original Stephen King book, which he published under his pseudonym Richard Bachman, before I saw the 1987 version. And if you've read the book or seen the other film, they're two very different things. So even as a kid watching the 80s version, I was sort of well aware that that was a wildly different adaptation. And so I think it always stuck in my head as a Stephen King fan that there was a whole other movie to be made out of that book. And so that was something that I'd actually thought about, and as I started to become a director, even inquired about, like 15 years ago, and the rights were not available, it was all a bit complicated. One of the producers, Simon Kinberg, got in touch with me like 4 years ago and said, is it true you have an interest in The Running Man? So that's where it all started.
We were just saying that in the book, it's set in 2025, and it's out in 2025, so was that a happy coincidence? Or?
Yeah. I think I was aware of it. I'm not sure the studio were aware of it. I think I actually told them in the sort of pitch meeting, because the original book, published in 1982, the paperback, this is the first edition paperback, on the front cover it says, "Welcome to the year 2025, where the best men don't run for president, they run for their lives."
Kind of a little bit similar to, you know.
It was that too on the nose.
Yeah, I mean, so like, my next question is like, how do you go about making a story published in 82 feel so timely in 2025?
Well, I mean, I guess A lot of the stuff in the book is very prescient. B, it's kind of disturbing how little has changed. I mean, it's sort of like the style in the movie is a sort of retro futuristic thing, which we kind of thought, well, what if this is Stephen King's idea of like 2025 from the 80s? Like some things have gone more advanced and some things have sort of regressed. So that was sort of the one of the ideas with the design, that we thought we'd kind of make it as if he was imagining it then.
It's quite nice. It sort of feels a little bit nostalgic and a little bit futuristic. So you've got like the analog stuff. You described it as like cassette futurism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about that.
I think when me and Michael Bacall were first working on the script, you know, the first thing you think about when you reread the book is like, oh, you know, we'll probably have to get rid of the envelopes and the tapes and the mailboxes. And then we kind of thought, well, maybe we don't. Like, because smartphones in films are boring.
Yep.
Too many smartphones in thrillers. So we just thought, well, let's just keep all the analog stuff. There's this, you know, obviously there's so many formats these days that people kind of like, there's an exoticism about like old formats. And, you know, when we were like shooting, I think people would be so obsessed with the clamshell video recorder thing, which is kind of so old school, but it was just fun to have. So I'm glad we did that. It was like sort of a nice thing to do. And I think also those things haven't gone away. There's, you know, audio cassettes and even CDs, like they haven't gone away.
I mean, they're coming back.
Yeah, exactly.
So Stephen King was exec producer on this. What was it like working with Stephen King?
There's a couple of things here. I had been in contact with him for a few years. he had been kind enough, like 21 years ago, to give us a press quote for Shaun of the Dead, which was wild to me, having grown up with his books. And then I was in touch with him more recently because he'd been very sort of generous about my recent movies. And even though I had his email and we'd email occasionally and usually just talk about music, I didn't want to talk to him about this until I knew it was definitely happening. Because I really didn't want to be the boy who cried wolf. And the idea of talking to him about it and then it not happening would have been too heartbreaking. So very late in the day, when he had to, as a potential executive producer, sign off on the script, the adaptation of his book, I got in touch with him. And he obviously already knew, but it was a funny email to send that said, as you are probably aware, I've been working on The Running Man. So myself and Michael McCall, it was also Stephen King used to be an English teacher before he was a world-famous writer. So we kind of felt like it was handing in our coursework to the world's most famous English teacher. It's a very nerve-wracking weekend when Stephen King's reading the script.
Did you get any red marks?
No, I mean, he did a thing at first where he was sort of screen capping it and sending page by page lines that he liked. And at a certain point, I was just like, my heart can't take it. Just read the whole thing. But he loved it, which was great. But then that adds a new pressure. Because as a director, you're sort of trying to live up to the film that's in your head. And now I was also having to live up to the film that was in his head as well. Because he really liked the screenplay and he liked the adaptation. And it was like big thumbs up from Stephen. And so that was it was a good pressure to have. You kind of sort of want to do right by him. And now he's seen the film and he loves it, which is great.
Amazing.
And that's why his name's on it. If you notice that his name's not on one of the movies, it's a tell that maybe he didn't like it so much.
I'll go back and look. I want to chat casting. It's like casting's my day job. So tell me about how you found your Ben Richards.
Well, I had been aware of Glenn, through a number of movies, mostly the Richard Linklater films I really liked him in. And I'd sort of met him a few times. The crazy thing, we didn't start making this until it was a year ago yesterday that we started filming, which is kind of wild. When it was coming together in a sort of starting to gather momentum at the start of 24, it was after the production strikes, the Paramount were like, we should make this year. And in a film of this kind of level, they sort of, kind of in a friendly way suggest a list of potential names. And one of the names on the list was Glenn. And he was the one person on the list that, I knew him a little bit and liked his work, but also he was the only person who hadn't already portrayed an action hero and a superhero. And I thought for this film it was really important to have somebody that you haven't really seen do this. Yeah. Because I think if you have somebody that you've already seen killing a zillion hitmen, it's not as exciting.
It desensitizes you a little bit.
Well, you just haven't seen him grow into that role. And because unlike the previous adaptation, unlike the book, he is like an out-of-work dad. He's not an existing action hero. He's not a super spy. He's not a trained killer. And so the fact that Glenn had this sort of everyman quality to him, a very handsome everyman, but but still you kind of feel like he's a guy that
Yes.
sort of, and to see him go through the gauntlet was just much more exciting. So when I saw his name on the list, I was just like, it's Glenn, it's him. And he was, obviously so keen to do it,
Yeah, you sort of birthed a new action hero. He's amazing in it. And didn't Tom Cruise mentor his stunts?
Glenn called Tom for running advice.
Yeah. And what was the running advice?
I think it was all about shoes.
Yeah.
And not doing it too late at night, and be careful of wet downs.
No heels.
Yeah, no sort of you have to kind of get those. I mean, there's one of the tricks is they have to kind of fake sneakers.
Yes.
Sort of dress shoes that are sort of actually secret sneakers.
I've got to ask you about Powell in a Towel, because that was quite a sequence. How did you pitch that to him?
I mean, it was in the script long before he signed on.
How the hell did that?
We didn't just put it in there because it rhymes with his surname.
How many times did that towel fall off, Edgar, or did it not? Or was it glued on?
Well, he had to take it off in the scene. So I mean, they had to rip it off the throat on the ground. I mean, when we wrote that scene, we didn't know we were going to be shooting it. We shot in London and Glasgow, and then at the very end in Sofia, sorry. And it was -10 when we shot that scene. So he was a real trooper. He was halfway up that building in -10.
It's one thing being naked in a love scene, but there's another thing being naked hanging off of a building.
In front of the whole crew.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The casting is genius, I think. Everything from Coleman, Amelia. Is Amelia here?
Amelia Jones.
Amelia Jones as Amelia. Brilliant. So, how good was she, guys? Brilliant. Katie O'Brien, Lee Pace, Josh Brolin, Michael Cera, Debbie Mazar.
Debbie Mazar, yeah.
So, I was just saying this to you before. Are we going to get a full episode of the Americanos on the extras?
There's more of it. I mean, when you put like Debbie Mazar, Kat Cohen, and Emma City in a room, even though there was a script, they wildly improvised. There's so much more than, I mean, it was that thing. It was like, oh, it's kind of an embarrassment of riches. It's like, so it's probably about 7 minutes of that on the DVD.
You're going to put it all on.
Oh yeah, it's great.
It's a full episode. Jackie does, yeah. Michael Cera, so your first time working together in 15 years, how was that?
It was great. What's funny is I've been obviously close friends with Michael since we shot Scott Pilgrim. And it was funny that in those 15 years we stayed very close, but usually that thing, you know, when you sort of have just a text relationship with somebody where it's mostly like bullshit, where you're just sending silly stuff to each other all the time. And it was funny eventually to sort of say, oh, I have something work-wise to talk to you about. So it was a really sweet thing, and he just replied, he goes, oh, exciting. So it was actually really nice after 15 years to actually sort of come to Michael with a part. And he was great. And it was also, you know, when I worked on Scott Pilgrim with him, he turned 21 on set. And now he's like a father of two. And just like that reunion with him was amazing. It's so great.
He's been to Club Ciné.
He's great.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
He's drinking wine in the audience. But, I mean, what a scene. It's like Home Alone on steroids. like, how do you approach a sequence like
My
that?
picture is Home Alone meets Straw Dogs, which two films that never have been mentioned in the same sentence before.
Like, was it as fun to make as it was to watch?
I mean, it's an action film, so it's never quite as fun to make as it looks, because it's quite complicated and arduous. It was fun. I mean, I'll say this, is like, the whole shoot was very complicated. And the thing that made it fun, the crew were great, but the cast were fun, and that kind of, you know, and obviously something like Glenn in the middle of it, he's got so sort of much energy, and he wants it to be really good, and he's gonna like, he's on time and he's there to work, and he just wants it to be as good as you do, which is great. And just seeing him and Michael together was just a really funny, like, chemistry. And Sandra Dickinson as his mum.
The mum needs an origin story. I'm sorry, she's brilliant. I want to talk a bit about world building, because this feels like it's your most ambitious project, and there was something like 170 different locations. So you're working with Marcus again, who's your long-time production designer. How did you come up with this interpretation of like Americana dystopia? What was on your mood board?
Well, you know, I think the key to it was we didn't really want to do a green screen film, and so a lot of the inspirations was more about production. You look at sort of the great sort of dystopian films and how they use existing architecture. And so the first thing we did once, you know, we were into sort of soft pre-production was myself and Marcus Rowland, production designer, and the great location manager Eugene Strange, just went out looking around the cities that we were looking for, both London and then other cities. Like we started looking, and then Glasgow sort of became the sort of the second city that we would use. I was kind of felt that some Scottish people might be offended by the fact he walks from downtown Glasgow to uptown London. It was like, sort of like apologies.
Imagine film.
And then we went further afield to Bulgaria because it was for some of the freeway sequences and the country roads and the woods and the airport and stuff. So, but it was really about using existing locations and redressing them. So the digital work, the amazing work by ILM is mostly kind of like going up into the heavens. So you'd shoot kind of like a Glasgow street and redress everything and have the cars and the extras, and then they sort of take it into some kind of like brutalist Escher nightmare above, you know?
Loved it. So like you mentioning like all in camera action. So like for example the hostel scene, that whole thing is a giant set build. None of it is CGI.
No. I mean, it was lots of different. It was probably the most complicated scene in terms of different pieces, different sets, and all, you know, and in different kind of, that was the shot over the matter of weeks and maybe even months, just, and in pieces as well. Like, so that was definitely the most. I mean, they're all the action sequences are complicated, but that was definitely the most kind of like in piecemeal of just different kind of sets and different set pieces for different things, and it was very complicated. But you know, I think hopefully it all looks pretty seamless, the finished thing.
Looks amazing. What does the film say about the future of entertainment? Are we one season away from Claudia Winkleman letting the traitors commit murder on primetime TV? Where's it going? Talk to us.
Sadly, you know people would watch it. I mean, that's the thing that beggars belief to me, actually. And if you've read the book, the thing that I was kind of really sort of shocked by is like, what like Stephen King, who was writing this, in his 20s, is like the sort of prediction, not just about the shows, but about what's going on backstage.
Yeah.
I find that really fascinating. And obviously, in writing the adaptation, we've now sort of had 25 years of a certain type of reality TV. And not just the kind of the more like arduous shows, like survival shows, but even things that should be benign, like singing competitions.
Married at First Sight.
Well, but I just think the things that like we start to become aware that members of the public, they become part of a narrative that the program makers. So somebody's got to be a laughing stock, which means they become a national laughing stock. Or somebody's got to be the villain, which means they can become like a national pantomime villain. And I think actors are playing roles, but members of the public are members of the public. And obviously, like there's, not joking around, there's a lot of dark stories that come with that too. Lots of like, and actually like just before we started filming with Coleman and Josh, that Jerry Springer documentary dropped on Netflix, and it sort of seemed to confirm everything that was in the script about what's going on backstage, and obviously there's been other scandals in this country with like the Jeremy Kyle show and stuff. It's all exactly the same thing of just like what people are doing to sort of backstage. And it's that thing, like one of the things that I really love in the film is that Coleman and Josh, immediately before Glenn Powell goes on stage, are like, they're like his best friends. Until he goes on stage, and then he's in the stocks, and then the whole audience is booing him, and Josh is at the side of the stage, like putting his thumbs up, whilst they're saying the worst slander on like sort of in front of billions of people. So all of that stuff was like, there's a lot of, we all know about those stories, both publicly and sort of secret stories in TV. So a lot of that factored into it.
And the AI stuff is pretty timely too. I mean, it's weird. Owning your own narrative. I get sent so much stuff on Instagram that I believe is true and it's not apparently. There was a granny being thrown against the wall yesterday that I thought was real and it wasn't. But do you know what I mean? It's like, it's scary. We're there, Edgar.
There's a scene in the original book where where he makes a tape and it's manipulated on TV to say something completely different. So that's the scene in the book. Obviously we just took the ball and ran with it. But I also like the Dan Killian, Josh Brolin's character, has a line where he's the one argument against AI is the idea that sort of only humans can bring these happy accidents. The sort of the randomness of humans.
That down. That's brilliant.
So I think that's the thing is I like that even he says, we can't deepfake the whole show because you human beings do interesting things that the viewers love.
What is your favourite Stephen King book adaptation?
One of my favourite horror movies of all time is Carrie. So I absolutely adore Carrie, and I've watched it many, many times, and it always has a real emotional impact on me. I always feel Carrie, I don't know but I always feel every time I watch Carrie, when they're dancing at the prom, I kind of think, maybe it'll be okay this time. You could do like Titanic, you could stop the film right there before they get on stage and the bucket comes down.
They're doing the TV series now, aren't they?
I know, Mike Flanagan, yeah.
One last question for me before we go to Q&A is, what did you learn from making this movie that you'll take on to your next?
I mean, this, like I said, we started filming this a year ago, and it's like the biggest, most complicated film that I've done. So the fact that it's done and finished is good, both good and bad, because you don't want that to become the thing of like, hey, look what they did in a year. Because it was, I mean, it was. I'm not complaining at all, but it was like a year of 6-7 day weeks, 16-hour days, especially when we got to the edit, actually, beyond the shoot. Every film you're learning on the job, you're always doing something new. You shouldn't make a film unless there's something in it that terrifies you. But also you as the director and co-screenwriter, you're setting the level of ambition. So when you're standing there on a shoot day and it's really tough, it's not like you can curse the heavens. It's like, whose idea was it to make it this complicated? It was my idea. And that would happen frequently. So I took it on it was my fault most of the time.
But it was made with love, you can tell.
Thank you.
It is beautiful. What are you doing next? Can you tell us?
Sleeping.
After you sleep, what are you going to do?
I'm not sure, actually. I'm not sure.
Audience Q&A. Has anyone got any questions?
Hi. I saw on Instagram that you and Glenn Powell got in contact with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes.
What was that like?
Well, we had to, so it's a little reference to him. Obviously, it's very different to the 1987 film, but we thought we'd pay homage to, you probably, I don't know if you saw on the $100 bill, no, it was short. We thought that in this alternate reality, they changed the rules and people who were born outside the United States could become president. So that's not like the guy from the previous movie, it is Arnold Schwarzenegger. So we had to get photo approval from him, which he gave us, which was very kind. And then Glenn had been in a film with him before and was friends with Patrick, his son. So we started to think we should call him. It just seems like the classy thing to do. So we did, like a couple of days before we started filming. And there got two parts to this story. So the first part is that it's like the Saturday night before we start filming on the Sunday, I think, or something, or Monday. Me and Glenn are watching Steve McQueen in The Getaway, Stan Peckinpah's The Getaway. And then he looks down, he's got like 6 missed calls from Patrick, and he's like, oh shit. So we get on the phone, and then he patches us in with Arnold. And the first thing that Arnold says, Arnold goes, oh, you have a gap in your teeth. And I was like, oh. I think, oh, Mr. Universe is making fun of me. And then he goes, no. He goes, when I came to Hollywood, I had a gap in my teeth, and then I got it fixed. And I said, I haven't had mine fixed yet. He goes, no, don't fix it. It is good luck. When I fixed my teeth, the box office went down. It was genuinely like the first thing he said, which was like, whoa. Anyway, he was really kind. He basically just wished us luck and said, I give him, you got my blessing. And he did say, because the original film was kind of troubled, and he did actually say, I always felt that was one of the films that could withstand a remake because the first one was compromised. The director got fired, and there was lots of backstage drama. And then more recently, there's a second part to the story, is he's now seen the film. Because when me and Glenn were in LA last week, we thought, well, we should screen it for him as well. And then he was watching it, and then we went to the screening room in Santa Monica. And Glenn was laughing because I was getting really antsy because I was just thinking, what if he hates it? What if he thinks it's too left-wing? What if he hates it? And he came out and he was like, the first thing he said, he goes, oh my God, it's fantastic. And then the second thing he said was really amazing. He goes, it looks like it was so hard to make. And then he said to Glenn, he goes, action film so hard to make, you're covered in blood, you're all sweaty, it hurts. He goes, I did not enjoy doing the action films. I much prefer doing Kindergarten Cop and Twins. I kid you not, that's what he said. I'm like, this is amazing. So I was just kind of like in heaven, just like watching Arnold give a capsule review of the film. It's incredible.
I loved your Arnie accent, it's brilliant.
I did not do it in front of it.
Anyone else?
I've got one.
Catherine.
I'll be loud. You said earlier on that when you were speaking to Stephen King, that you didn't really talk about work, you talked about music.
Yeah.
What did you talk about in terms of music? Because I know music is so important to your films.
He's a big rock fan. So I would like send him like albums on his birthday of bands that I thought he might not know. Like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Like Australian psych rockers and stuff. So it would be like a sort of music exchange. So it was the thing that became like a tradition of me sending him like a sort of like a new rock band on his birthday.
I was not expecting him to be a rock fan.
That's a good question. Anyone else? Oh, there we are.
Hey,
Gary.
Hi, how you doing? Love the film, and I kind of following up on that question really, but because I was wondering how you choose the old tracks to go in this film. The Rolling Stones. I mean, Heartbreaker is a genius moment. But do you have that in your mind before, or do you wait till the edit?
No, it's a bit of both. Before you start shooting, like some of them were written into the script, and then some, like, they're all like thematic in this. Because unlike Baby Driver and Last Night Soho, where they're playing in the scenes, they're not really playing in the scenes, but they're sort of all thematic. And so, Underdog, Slam the Family Stone, that was Michael Bacall's idea, but I love that song, and it's like, great, what an amazing idea. And then, but I really like that John Conger's song, He's Gonna Step on You Again, which was covered by the Happy Mondays, but it's just that title, He's Gonna Step on You Again. So it's all the things that are like thematic. So it's not as many songs in it as like previous movies, but it was just really like fun to do that stuff. And also I was amazed, like Heartbreaker by the Rolling Stones, amazingly, never used in a movie before. I could have sworn it was in a Scorsese movie, but it wasn't. Like, so I was thinking, this is the first film to actually use Heartbreaker, so that's cool. Not that made it any cheaper.
A film like yours, which is a Stephen King adaptation, but it's not a franchise. It's like a one-off genre movie. Some of them have done quite well this year. The box office is not doing amazingly well. Obviously, you want your film to do brilliantly, but it's a very difficult time to release a film like this, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about, I mean, you know, I think production and exhibition like sort of both suffered with the pandemic and haven't entirely bounced back. There's certain genres of films that it seems like the audience have decided to just watch at home. A lot of the times I kind of like make the movies that I miss. You know, in the 80s and 90s it felt like you got a good sci-fi action film every 4 weeks. All you can do is make the movie for, you have to be the audience member, and you have to make the movie that if you hadn't directed it, you would be the biggest fan of it. So you kind of have to be like your perfect audience member. And that's the only way you can do it. And I think all you can do is make films with sincerity and hope that the audience shows up. So I think that's it, really.
Thanks, Will. We've got time for one more question. There is one more.
What was the last film that made a big impression on you, Edgar?
Thank you, Adam Buxton. Usually I watch a lot of movies, and this year has been not so good because I've been working. But I did see some films at the London Film Festival, and I really enjoyed the film Pillion, which has anybody else seen that movie? I love that. I thought it was really great. I liked that. I liked No Other Choice, the Park Chan-wook film. Those are two that really stood out.
Edgar, wish this movie great things. I loved it. You guys loved it. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for coming.
Yeah, you've got to come back.
Back to Amelia Jones.